Welcome back everybody, my name is Nick930 and today we're going to look at the top 10 best competitive survival games. For this list we're looking at games that require you to survive a harsh world whilst protecting your loot from other hostile players. There's a few newer games that I'd love to include but are currently only in closed alpha stages, so I won't be including games like Escape from Tarkov or Islands of Nine. But I recommend looking them up, they do look pretty impressive. Since some of these games may have been popular years ago but have since become increasingly worse due to poor development choices, it's important to keep in mind that this list is based on the current status of the listed games and how they stack up against each other in July 2017. To make this list, I cross-referenced Metacritic, Steam overall reviews, and my own personal opinions based on the quality and value of the products that I managed to play. This video will not take into consideration player versus environment centric games like Don't Starve or The Forest, and will instead save those games for another list in the future. Number 10, Life is Futile, Your Own. Now this is one of the games on this list I haven't personally tried, but it's one of the more unique and creative games on this list. Life is Futile is a medieval survival game that lets you manipulate the environment to help craft weapons, armor, and fortresses. The game features physics-based combat to make it feel more authentic, and based on the description alone, the overall scope of the game is ambitious. Unfortunately, like most of the games on this list, it appears the game is no longer receiving support, but lots of new adopters seem to be enjoying the game in its current state anyway, and it's one of the few medieval survival games available. Number 9, Conan Exiles. Conan Exiles may be one of the very few big brand survival games on the market. It seems to still have an active development cycle, with new features like vertical cliff climbing being added earlier this month, but very many users report serious technical issues that ruin the experience. Things like long loading times, poor optimization, and players frequently cheating or using exploits result in this game getting a mixed overall score on Steam. Still, Conan delivers a deep world with lots to do and couples it with some impressive visuals and lots of opportunity to raid large fortresses with your friends. Number 8, DayZ. DayZ's the granddaddy that started them all. DayZ was originally a mod for Arma 2 that introduced players to a large open world with limited supplies and a requirement to consistently find food and water to keep their character alive. The game evolved with consistent updates to include vehicles like cars and helicopters, and the community grew exponentially with its popularity. The game style proved so popular that several copycat games like War Z dropped into the market with promises of more refined controls and performance. But no game ever proved to be as deep as DayZ for the longest time, and the modification thrived. By the time the standalone version released, players were tired of the poor control scheme and impossibly bad performance, and more copycat games had begun replicating the game style correctly with better results, turning DayZ into a ghost town. DayZ still holds an impressive player count, but the overall score for the standalone is lower than that of War Z. Number 7, H1Z1. H1Z1 was first revealed by Sony as the DayZ killer, and was about as cookie-cutter as it gets, an open-world survival game with loot hidden in buildings and zombies scattered around to help make things more difficult. The game received mixed ratings and never really took off like they planned, especially when the developers decided to split the PvP and PvE into two separate titles. One of these splits, titled H1Z1 King of the Kill, managed to spike in popularity as it became one of the most popular Battle Royale games on PC, and one of the most popular games streamed live to Twitch TV. After the success of more recent Battle Royale games and some questionable development choices, H1Z1 has seen a significant drop in player count, and the game is not looked at as fondly as it once was, but there's still a loyal fanbase that prefers it. Number 6, Ark Survival Evolved. Ark was shown off with an incredibly impressive trailer a few years back that showed fantastic graphics, a massive open world, and best of all, dinosaurs. Not only that, but Ark lets you tame these dinosaurs and ride them around, in addition to crafting a crazy huge amount of content and even building massive fortresses and dinosaur farms. This game is incredibly ambitious, but still to this day has unacceptable performance issues. I've tried to play this game on multiple occasions with different setups, and each time I barely managed 60 frames per second on the lower default settings. The user interface also has a really ugly placeholder setup that looks out of place, and the game's fans are not happy with the game in its current state, especially after the price has been raised 100% to prepare for the final release. Number 5, Next Day Survival. This one released very recently and is already getting a lot of glowing reviews. It only costs $8 and features very deep RPG elements and some great survival designs. There's a few aspects that aren't fully completed, like bottle openers and cigarettes, but the game does show some great potential, and the developers are actively working on the game and adding great content. They even plan on adding in a type of battle royale game mode, which is all the rage lately. The graphics aren't the most impressive I've seen in these types of games, but performance is supposed to be phenomenal, with players reporting the game running on the highest settings with 100 frames per second on mid-range computers. Number 4, Unturned. Unturned is a free-to-play survival game featuring incredibly blocky visuals and heaps of polygonal zombies. It's a great way to get into the multiplayer survival genre without spending any money, and only recently celebrated its official release. It currently has the highest overall score of any of the games on this list, which is impressive for a free-to-play game that's not made by Valve. The amount of content available in this game is staggering, with tons of vehicles like helicopters, boats, and cars, and a large attention to detail for a game with 1990s graphics. Number 3, Rust. Rust is an incredibly deep online survival experience that literally has you starting out with absolutely nothing, not even clothes. You run around smacking trees and rocks with other rocks and build entire fortresses from nothing. It offers an insanely deep crafting experience, and when you're not stuck with hackers, which you unfortunately most likely will be, you can have some awesome player versus player experiences as you try and defend your fortress from raids. The game has received tons of huge updates like cave diving, and the developers are actively supporting the game despite the game releasing way back in 2013. But again, Rust suffers from a lot of cheating and hacking, so it's difficult to have a fun experience in a player versus player setting, which is why this game did not manage to earn the top spot on the list. Number 2, Miscreated. Miscreated is another DayZ clone, but it may be one of the most polished ones I've had the pleasure of playing. Miscreated takes advantage of the Cry engine and is one of the best looking titles on this list. Lighting, foliage, rain effects, and textures all look phenomenal, and player animations look top notch. The gameplay is easily accessible with a good inventory system and the ability to build bases if you're interested in that game style. But the real fun comes from player versus player interactions that can either be friendly passings or all-out combat depending on who you run into. I played this with some friends a few months back, and I had a lot of fun sneaking up on enemy bases and trying to get them to surrender, only to have their friends surround us and force us into a firefight. The game also features some mutated zombies, but honestly, unless they improve these enemies significantly, the game's probably better off without them. But anyway, before I reveal my top pick for best competitive survival game, here's a few other titles I considered. And my number 1 pick for best competitive survival game is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. And I'm sure you all saw that coming. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which has a terrible title by the way, is a battle royale game that forces 90-some players to jump out of a plane over a large open map and hunt for weapons and supplies to help them be the last man standing. There is no food or water management like most survival games, which helps speed up the gameplay and focus it more on player versus player combat. The shrinking player zone helps force players together, and the amount of thought and strategy that goes into each move makes Battlegrounds one of the most intense online experiences today. Battlegrounds is currently the 3rd most played game on Steam, above Ark and H1Z1, and even Grand Theft Auto 5, and is the most streamed game on Twitch TV. It has received praise from several big YouTubers, and because of its success, the developers will likely dedicate significant support, keeping it a quality game for some time. They're already working on releasing some new maps to help mix up the experience, in addition to a first-person only game mode to give players a more competitive option. And that's it, that's my list for best player versus player survival games. Now there's a ton of these games out there, and I tried to find as many as I could to give you guys an accurate list, but I'm sure I've missed some. Don't be afraid to let me know which PvP survival games I missed, and if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you all next time.